today's episode, at least 25% of people are going to turn off in the first 5 minutes, right?
I don't know. I don't know. Well, I think we should just talk about like how we decided to do this episode.
Okay. So today's episode is not about we're going to talk therapeutically, but we're not talking about like one therapeutic thing. What we're going to talk about is that 30 minutes ago, I was sobbing my eyes out, blow drying my hair that we had to record, and I couldn't do it today. And so we decided that instead of doing what was planned for us, we love you, Nikki, we're so sorry. We were just going to be honest about how unwell we're both doing.
And the reason why, a couple of reasons why I think it was important that we do this is we really talk about being authentic and like how important it is that we are authentic on this show. And I also think it might be helpful for people to hear the ways we talk ourselves through it. So I think that and also I think it's going to be helpful for us to just talk ourselves through it in general. And we might as well do it on the podcast.
Okay, great. So, we are not doing well. One of the things that Jen and I are really bad about with the business is if we get anxious about the business, instead of slowing down and taking care of ourselves, we do the opposite, where we go into hyperdrive.
Yeah.
And so this past year at the business, we made the decision to move from 1099 to W-2. There's lots of reasons for that. To give people benefits, there's lots of good stuff that comes with it. But it was a lot of work to do. And it's been a long journey to get there. I mean, you have to redo, there's like so much shit that comes with it, right? And part of that was we also, for some reason, it turned us into like the business is going to fail. Why did we go there? I don't know.
Okay. Just have some like theories about why we went there.
Okay.
We've never done this before. Number one,
yes.
Like every time we enter into a new phase of the business, we're both doing something we've never done before.
Mm-hmm.
That is really terrifying. Like it's more terrifying now because the stakes are higher, because we feel so much responsibility over our clinicians and like having them be happy and having them have like a wonderful workplace. And so the more people, who are a part of the therapy group, the more responsibility we feel. It's like we have, 40 children.
And not in a way that we like have to micromanage them, but in a way that like we're like very concerned about their well-being.
Yeah, like we want to take care of them. And when you have to make big decisions for like the good of the business, you want to make sure everyone's okay and you want to take care of them. And so I think that was also so big, is like we're making a huge decision and we just want to take care of everyone. We want to make sure everyone's okay. We want to like help everyone ease into this. And so Emmalee and I went into this like overdrive that I think, and since January 1st, like we've been in this overdrive, and now it's March. And so for, almost 3 months, we've been going nuts. And when I say going nuts, I mean like working very, very hard.
Like, round the clock.
Round the clock. There is no time that if we're not doing something, we're thinking about doing something.
Yeah.
That's a piece of it too. Like just like the cognitive overload.
Yeah. I think also you and I both have a lot of stuff happening in our personal lives, right? Like, so there's also like stuff happening. So like, okay. So like typically one of the ways that we like handle life organization is we would bulk record the podcast, right? So like we would pick one day a month, we'd record 4 episodes, and then you're not like doing it all the time. We have not even had a single day to do that. And so it feels like every week we're recording, because we're not just on our podcast, we're always on a lot of other people's podcasts, and we're doing other stuff for the podcast. And now we're going to rebrand the podcast, and which is great. And it's all good. And that's the hard thing about being this busy, is like everything is good shit.
Right. Like we're not complaining.
No, I just feel like I'm going to this is when my therapist would say, this is your victim stuff, right? Like, so like, this is like the stuff that's been, I feel like I'm going to die if I keep going. Like, I just feel, and then it's like, okay, right. So as therapist, what would you say to a client? You'd say cancel stuff. You'd say take the day off. It's so much easier said than done.
Yeah.
And
Well,
every person here is listening. Yeah.
especially when you feel this, once again, responsibility for other people. Like
Yeah.
I taking the day off doesn't just affect me. Like that, I think that's my
Is
thing
that
at
true? Okay,
least.
wait. Since we are talking ourselves through that,
Yeah, good.
is that true? Because we went to Jamaica and everything was fine.
I don't know. That's what I was
That's
gonna say. That's
this is a
I think
cognitive
that's
distortion.
I think that's my thing is that like I and I've talked to my therapist about this too of like I feel like if I don't take it on for myself, like it's going to end up affecting other people. So why don't I just do it myself, which is something that, I think I grew up with.
Pathological.
Right. And so I'm like, "Oh, I'm just going to keep taking things off other people's plates because I can handle this." And
Yeah.
here's the thing. There's a lot of times where that is helpful for
Mhm.
us, right? Like there are
Makes us
times in which
highly productive.
very productive, right? And there I really do feel like for better or for worse, like there's a lot that we can withstand. Like there is a lot we can take
Yeah.
on. I am always thinking about what else I can do. But there's a line and I don't know where the line is.
You don't think we're at it?
No, I definitely think we're at it. I think we've hit it because
Oh, okay,
go
so
ahead.
here's right. So we talk about like talking ourselves down for this. So if I was a therapist, we
Yeah.
talk about this is retro personal versus professional, right?
Yes.
Like this
Wow.
this
Take
is
us back.
if you are an original Shrink Chicks listener,
OG listener.
you know personal versus professional, and this is like what we're talking about right now. Okay, so professionally, we know exactly what we should quote unquote should be doing, right? We should be taking days off. We should be saying no more. That personally has been so difficult.
Yeah, it has.
I feel so much stress and overwhelm.
Yeah.
And here's the other part. There's everything's fine.
I know.
Like we have this anxiety, like we got to get more clients in. We got to make sure all of our therapists are filled up. There's plenty of intakes. It's fine.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I think, and I wonder if other, business owners feel this is
oh
like,
my gosh.
I just think there's always this sense of impending doom. I actually said this to our landlord in Philly, who actually owns and has owned like a huge mental health practice. I don't know. He owns a bunch of
Business,
shit.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something,
We're not
something.
entirely sure.
And I made the joke of like, yeah, when you own a business, like you always think, you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And he was like, yep, yes, I do know. So
Yeah.
I do think it's just something that you feel. And I think that that's maybe something we have to look at and be like, just because we feel this way, does it make it true?
Yeah.
And I don't know if we do that enough. We probably hype each other up.
Well, I think that's the other issue, right? Like, this is one of the ways we do not help and benefit each other.
Yeah.
Right? Like the thing is, we can sit here and talk about how wonderful our relationship is, but there's bad things about our relationship. That's one of them.
We spiral downward
We
together.
spiral, and like neither of us are being like, no, no, no. Why are we saying yes to all this shit? Right? And then it's like,
We're just like, yeah, yeah, we should do. We keep saying, we just say yes, 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 yes,
to
yes.
everything.
We need that boundaries. The boundaries class. We need that.
Taylor's, we have to get in Taylor's class. Is that what's the ethical dilemma if we
I'm not
attend
sure.
that
I think
course
it
as
might
well?
be. I think it might be a dual relationship, but I'm
Um,
in.
uh, and so right, so we don't seem to stop ourselves. We are now going after each like right, and not like attacking ways, but like we like ping pong off, right? Like I'll be anxious, she'll be anxious, I'll be anxious, she'll be anxious. Nikki's got some stuff going on, she's anxious, and it's just
Yeah, like where are our emotional boundaries between? But we used to. Here's the thing: we used to be much better at this. You and
like
I.
no,
No, like when one person was struggling, the other one, we have talked
yeah.
about
What
on the
happened to that?
podcast. I think things became so much bigger than us.
I feel like 2 years ago, like I
Like
feel like 2 years ago it got bad.
Yeah, like, I think things remember but do you remember talking about that on the
Yes.
podcast that, like,
It was so true.
we were so much better at that, like, we were like, "Oh, we got this," like, when one person's struggling, the other one's okay, like, blah,
Well,
blah,
do you
blah.
think we've become too enmeshed?
Probably.
I mean, that's the thing is maybe we had more differentiation before,
Yeah.
and then we've gone through a bunch of hard stuff with the business the past 2 years, which, like, kinda trauma bonded us and made us, like, codependent.
Yeah, we
No?
are very codependent. I know. I know.
And right? And so wait, so if you realize you're having a codependent relationship with someone,
Trauma bond.
that
We
I
are
don't
we're 100% trauma bond.
like, at no point in the fall when we decided to move an entire building in 1 weekend, at no point did either of us be like, "Maybe we should just shut the business down for a week." Like, maybe we should have just had everyone take
Nope.
off and we give ourselves a week to do this. We were like, "No," because God forbid someone has to move an appointment. Instead, we'll just cancel 1 day of the office, 2 days. No, Friday and Monday and do it all.
And also, like, I don't know if we asked for enough help, which is
I can't.
another
Okay,
problem we
listen.
have.
Wait a second. Wait a second. Jen, I brought this up to you at the time. You are so bad at getting help. I'm
I
very bad,
am.
but you're worse.
I'm really bad at it. I feel
Worse.
yeah, that
Okay, there's an
it's my own
event.
stuff.
Wait, there's an event in a month from now or at the end of this month that I was like, "Jen, it's the day before Easter. I don't know if I can do this. I'm hosting all these people." And I keep being like, "Hey, let's have someone else do it with you." And you keep saying, "I'm gonna do it by myself."
Yeah.
Why?
Because it doesn't feel like their responsibility. It feels like ours. Like, it feels like
But that's speaking for other people. That's an assumption.
yeah, no, it is. I'm just
Someone
I'm
might like that. We hate that, like, you know what I mean? At this point, we're burned out of it, but other people might be, like, thrilled to do what we're doing.
because in my mind, I'm like, who would want to do this?
That's where you're confused.
You
But
think people would want that?
if I was the clinician, you were my boss, and you came to me, and with my personality, right? I'd be like, "Hell yeah, I would love to go present at this thing."
Yeah,
I
maybe I'm
understand
projecting my own
you're
personality onto
projecting
people.
your shit.
Yeah, listen, I if people wanna do it, absolutely.
I'm gonna
I
send out so if I send out an email
yeah,
and I ask, would you accept the help?
maybe. Let's talk through it first. Well, we have to figure out what we're even talking about first, you know? I think that
Trauma-informed
that's
personal training.
yeah, there's just a lot that we have to figure out, and then, yeah, then we can send out an email.
I think Patrick should do it.
Okay. Let's maybe we talk about this off air.
Say, okay, you want to be authentic on this show. We don't really want to talk about anything.
I just don't want once again, if someone wants, like I don't want someone to feel I also don't want anyone to feel pressured. That's another thing is that I also think like it can be hard to say no to your boss too.
So the power difference, yeah.
And yeah, the power differential. Like I don't want anyone to feel like, oh, because you're asking me, I have to say yes.
Yeah.
That's another thing is like
All
I
right, so
don't
keep the power imbalance. That makes sense.
the power imbalance. Like I don't want anyone to feel pressure. If I say no, are they going to look at me differently? Are they going to feel some sort of way? I
Mhm.
don't want anyone to feel that either. That is another piece of it.
So
Because
you're gonna hold the discomfort for everyone,
yep,
so no one else has to ever hold it.
it's literally my MO.
You're like, "I can solve this. I'll just carry all of it."
Yeah.
Right? This is like, when someone offers you're, like, carrying a bunch of shit and someone's like, "Oh, like, can I help you?" And you're like, "Well, no, because then I'll end up dropping the things that I do have if somebody takes some of it."
Yes.
That's how it feels right now.
Yeah. Which like I think you can relate to that too.
Yeah. That's why I'm yes.
Where you're like, "Oh, I wish someone would help me." And then but it's hard to let go because you're like, "I'm already holding so much.
Yeah.
If I let go of this, what's going to happen?"
I mean, I think last week I did a good job of like so last week this couch broke just like randomly. I mean, our couches get a lot of use, right? So the fact that it even lasted about 7 years is very impressive in my
Impressive, yeah.
opinion. Um, I have no idea if 7 years is correct. I just made the number up. I'm pretty sure it's
Sounds
5
right.
because we had set it up while I was 9 months pregnant.
Yeah.
And my kid just turned 5. So, okay, so this couch breaks. The thing is, we can't just have a broken couch in the office. We don't have storage in the office. So we had to get a new couch, get the other one out, and get everything taken care of in very quick time. So we were able to move everyone around, and I was like, "Okay, great." So Aaron and I had a date night planned for that Friday. I was like, "Oh, Aaron and I will come in and we'll build the couch and we'll move it on our date night." And I tell him this, and he was like, "Why are we doing this?" So I was like, "Oh." And so we did. We made the good decision that we paid a TaskRabbit.
Yep. And
And
it
while
did
I
so much.
well, the TaskRabbit came in to remove the other couch, and I was like, "Hey, if I throw you guys some cash, would you bring the other box up and build it?" And he was like, "Yeah, for sure. Don't sue us, TaskRabbit." And I just, like, threw him some cash, and he, like,
Yeah.
did the next part, because I, like, had this moment that I was like, "Oh my god, like, I'm gonna ask my partner." We have
Yeah. Yeah.
so if you're married to someone who owns a business, I'm so sorry for you.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I feel bad for my husband too.
They get dragged. My husband had to come in and fix a lock last week, like, they get dragged into everything all the time.
Yeah. It just and that's the thing, it really affects that's another thing, it affects your relationships
Yeah.
because how could it not? And I think that that's, like, boundary-wise, an important thing to figure out of, like, where's the line? Because when you I think there's a lot of glorified there's a it's really glorified owning a business. Um, and I saw what was that? It's that thing that's like, oh, like, if you work for yourself
Oh, it was like work for yourself so
and
you
you're work
have the flexibility to work 24/7.
Yeah, exactly.
I've
Exactly.
seen that. Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's true, you know? So I don't know, but I also think this translates because I was thinking about it too. I was thinking about the burnout that I feel at least. That a lot of it also feels like it comes from like the cognitive overload,
Yeah.
the mental load, which I think a lot of people, even if you don't own a business, like a lot of people can relate to, of having to think about all of the things
All the time. All the time.
all the time. Um, and how shutting that off is really hard. And I particularly have a hard time like anytime I have some sort of downtime, I'm thinking about what I have to do.
Yeah.
And I didn't really feel like it was always like that.
It wasn't always like this.
Yeah.
There's no way it was always like this. Well,
Yeah.
but also in the last 6 months, Jen, how many meetings have we had with lawyers, accountants, HR people, insurance, you know what I mean? Like, we have spent the thing is that, like, if I have time that I don't have meetings on the calendar, and I have, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have to be on camera, I don't have to be on the calendar, I can sit down and get a bunch of stuff done.
Yeah.
My issue is I feel like our days are so, like, patched up
Yeah.
badly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like, like you'll have a meeting at like 11 and then 2, and then you're trying to do this thing, but then you get into a flow state of working on this. So I said this. So we're starting this new software to help people with their out of network benefits, make it much easier for clients. We're very excited about it. But I said to Jen yesterday, I was working on it, I don't know, Tuesday or Wednesday. And I was like, it's so hard for me to get on this meeting because all I want to do is mess with this website. Like, all I want to
Yes.
do is like learn because I was into it. I'm
Yeah.
excited that we're doing this. I think it's going to be really easy and accessible. I think it's going to help people. Like, I'm excited and I feel good.
Yeah.
And then I didn't want to stop it.
Yeah.
And then guess what? When you stop it, then I was like, I don't
Right.
want to open that up again.
Right. Right. You lose it.
You lose it.
Um, well, you know what too is like there are you know what's wild is like there are days in which we're like, oh, I feel good.
Yeah.
Like we're handling this. And then there are days where it's just the complete
Opposite.
opposite. Like yesterday, weren't you feeling pretty good? I
Um,
feel like you were in like a
well, Millie was homesick from school.
oh, right.
So no.
Right.
So
That
my entire day, my husband's traveling, my kid was homesick, all my stuff had to get moved around.
yeah.
And I think for me, that's what I'm also struggling with so much is that like
Yeah.
when you talk about like the cognitive load, I'm also trying to like figure out how to like, right? Like I wanted to, Millie there was a PTO meeting and like I try to be involved with Millie's school and she loves that I'm involved. Like Millie loves being like, my mom decorated the school. Oh,
Oh,
my mom's here during the day, right? So like I know that's important to her. So I try to be there.
yeah.
And it's so hard.
Of
So I
course.
like run into this PTA meeting and I'm there for 30 minutes and I'm trying to help out with this thing. And it's just like, I have to send, even right now, I have to send the PTA president like three dates in April I could work. I could do this thing. Jen, I can't find 3 dates.
How about we'll find them together?
We'll find them together.
Let's find them
But I
together.
mean, it's just like you look at the calendar and I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, this isn't working. And that's what came up this morning that I was like, I can't believe I have to get on camera right now,
Yeah.
record and film this.
Yeah.
And this isn't working.
Yeah.
You know, a few months ago, somebody sent us the most beautiful email that was like, I want to make sure you guys know if you need to take a day off, you can.
Oh yeah, it was so
Remember how
nice.
this, I don't
think
know
I cried.
right? It was so kind. It was like, thank you for all you guys do. And just so you know, like people will be okay if there's like a few weeks that are missed for episodes. Also, literally 12 hours later, we got an email from someone talking about how they're not going to listen anymore because we talked about what we ate for lunch.
That, my friends, is like how you can go from one extreme to the other in what we're doing. Like you can have
was like, I was a long time listener and I'll never listen again. Get back to
get back to work. Get back to work. We were like talking about lunch. We were talking about pickles or something. I don't know.
She said, I don't give a shit that you ate a pickle. And so you do that. I'm sorry, I'm laughing, but like it just fucks with your brain, man. Like I'm like, oh my god, so sweet. We could take a week off. I'm like, Jesus, you're not going to listen again because I talked about eating a pickle. Man, talk about you really can't please everyone.
You really can't. I think that's part of it is that like and that's the thing. We really want to help people. That's what it comes down to. We want to help people in all capacities. We want to help clients. We want to help listeners. We want to help our clinicians.
But we're not helping ourselves right now.
But we're not helping ourselves.
No.
That was so funny. It's just like a perfect depiction of like the swings. I just think there's so many swings. We had a win the other day too that felt so good. And now I can't remember what it is. It's
so
gone.
long ago.
It's gone.
Wait, what was it?
I can't remember. But it was a win. And I was like, oh, this is good.
We're going.
I was like, I'm holding on to this.
Well, and that's the other part. Like, I kind of love all the things we do, right? Like Monday, we had this like leadership group in the middle of the day, which like kind of sucked, but like it was such a great group and we learned so much and it was awesome, right? Like, so the hard part is that like, you know, like sometimes I get overwhelmed when I have to like check in and there's different stuff happening, but then I love getting to talk to all of our therapists and like, I don't know, right? So like the podcast can feel hard, but then like people write these nice comments and you know that someone's getting something out of it. Or I sat next to, we went to a networking lunch last week and the therapist sat down next to me and was like, oh, my client told me to listen to your podcast. My client loves your podcast. And it meant so much. And so here's the hard part is like, what if you actually love because when I think about like, okay, so if I was the therapist, I would say to my client, so what can you get off your plate?
Yeah.
What if I don't want to get anything off?
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem. And I think, okay, so here's another thing, right? Like we have multiple emotions attached to the things we do. That I think is where we struggle. And then there are days in which we really fall into like how overwhelmed we are. And when we feel that level of overwhelmed, everything feels bad, right? It like translates into, there becomes this narrative of like, everything's bad. Everything's overwhelming. I'm failing at this. I'm not doing enough, not just in the business, but like in other areas of our lives. Like it just trickles into everything. Mm-hmm. And, the reason why I think this is helpful, like to talk through this is like, it's helping at least me gain a little perspective. Like I do think we need to set better boundaries.
What are those?
Yeah. I think, okay, I got it. First of all, I have to plug my computer in.
Yes, I hear you. That's a good boundary.
Yeah, that's a good boundary. Just so my computer doesn't die. Here's what I think it is. And this is, I think we're notoriously bad at this. I think at times hold on. Sorry, you can cut this out, everyone.
It's great. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Plugging in computers. Very good. Okay.
I think at times we make emotional decisions.
You think?
Good and bad. I mean, like when we're in a good space, if we get asked something we say yes because we're in such a good space and we're like,
Yeah.
yes, let's keep this rolling, keep the momentum. Like we got this. It's still an emotional decision because it's not like, well, let's actually ask ourselves, do we have the capacity for this?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and sometimes we do though, but sometimes we're asked, right?
yeah,
We do at that time have the capacity. And then it just seems to go in this wave that we get asked 15 things at once.
yes. And so we're saying yes to all of these things when we're in a good space, and it throws us into a not so good space.
Can I also say the other thing we haven't talked about at all the podcast that I'm just going to say right now, since we're being
Yeah.
honest,
Yeah.
which is that I started IVF
Yeah. Wow.
during the height of this, and it has not gone super great. Which is why I was like, oh, I said to Jen, I was like, I want to be able to do an episode about IVF and be very honest about it. But I wanted to hopefully have good news when I did that. And also, hopefully we still have rights to do IVF come November. So it would be fucking great if we don't lose reproductive rights.
That would be amazing.
But so not just that, dude, but I've also had like this, like the hormonal insanity. If you have done IVF or you were doing IVF, I love you and you're going to be crazy. Like it's just so much hormones.
IKEA.
I feel like I've held it together very well.
You have.
For what's been happening in my life.
1,000,000%.
Which maybe is not a good sign.
Well, from my perspective, you could tell me what you think. Like I think you were almost prepared for the worst.
And it was better than that. That's
exactly.
True.
I think you were really prepared for the worst.
Yeah.
And so there was nowhere to go but up. Like you were prepared to just fucking lose it. And you really held it together.
But so that was so I started in November. So November was super light for us.
Yeah.
But like now I have to do another round in April. And yet we're not, I think because I did it once, now I'm not like setting the same boundaries. And I really should be. So Nikki, when you listen to this,
we'll text her after this.
But
I also haven't had a house.
You haven't. Also, Jen hasn't had a house since Jen's house has been working on, which is, I also feel like because you're getting worked on your house, it's almost like it's almost like you're not allowed to be stressed about it because it's like, oh, like it's so nice you're getting your house redone, which is lovely.
Yes, very true.
Except for that you have been displaced since September and it's been horrible.
I've had no stability.
I said, I want to freak out at the contractor. It's so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So we both are not on stable footing. Here's another thing I wanted to mention because I wonder if other people relate to this. When you and I, both of us do this, when you and I feel, I think, out of control in our lives or like we have a lot on our plate for whatever reason, we go harder.
It's a bad idea.
Right? Like you and I are like, oh my God, I'm so stressed. Let's go fucking hard. And
let's change the entire model of our business.
Let's work even harder. Like what is wrong with us? And once again, it works in some ways, doesn't work in other ways. But okay.
Well, you've all listened and ShrinkChicks enough. Can you guys diagnose us now, please?
Yeah. Come on. We've made you into therapists. It's your turn. It is your turn. Help.
I'm going to the other side of the couch now. I like somebody. But we're both in individual therapy. Right? Like, it's not like we don't use our things. It's just that like, holy Lord, how sustainable is this?
Also, let me say this too. We might be talking about this today. And we're all stressed out and we may feel amazing tomorrow.
Yeah, we probably will.
This is
we only have one meeting tomorrow.
Yeah. This is another piece and something that I hope that after listening to us rant and being as authentic as we possibly can, you also take this away is that like, this is a moment in time that we're feeling really stressed.
Yeah.
That's what I always remind myself when I'm feeling things like this is like, this is a moment in time. This is a day that I'm feeling really stressed.
But if you have to then go fake it somewhere else. Like we were feeling so stressed. And I'm going to tell you, I already feel a million times better.
Yeah, me too.
Right?
Every time.
But if I had to get on here and talk about something else and right, like I don't know how I would have felt. I would have felt so defeated by the end.
What do you think has helped you in this? Like, what do you think it was about this that was helpful for you?
I think just talking about how big it's all been and so hard it's all been. And then also that like we love this too. Like we're not sitting here saying never will I say this to Jen all the time. The worst day of our job I is better than any other job I could ever imagine in the world.
Yeah. We feel
We are so lucky.
yeah, that's what I was saying. We feel so privileged at the same time. Like, and that's the thing, because I think that people often invalidate themselves when they feel grateful for something, but you can feel both things. You can be struggling and also feel really grateful. And I do. Like, I feel so lucky to, be able to talk on this podcast, to be able to help our clinicians, have our clinicians, like for that to trickle down so much. I feel so lucky to have you. And like, it's, and at the same time, it's very stressful and it's
Mhm.
very hard. So that I think that's a huge piece, is that like it was helpful for you to just validate this, and just have this, and at the same time acknowledge how grateful we are. And so if you're listening to this and you're struggling with something and you find yourself invalidating your own feelings because you're like, "Oh, well, like I don't have it as bad as like XYZ," like
Yeah.
that will invalidate you, and those feelings will just get bigger. And that's why talking really authentically on the podcast today was really important to us, because it also helps us acknowledge those feelings that we've been going through, and at the same time also acknowledge how grateful we are to be in this position. Um and that both things can be true. And I
Yeah.
just like, if we're going to drive anything home, I want that to be it, because that feels so, it just feels helpful for me. Does it feel helpful for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It does. And I think I mean it's so true. Like I feel like I don't let myself like sit down and be like, "Whoa, this is really hard now." Because I do. I feel so grateful
Yeah.
with everything else. And I feel like I feel this a lot in like parenthood. Like you know me, like would I ever say a negative thing about my kid ever?
Never.
Never.
Never in a million
And
years.
never a million years, right? And part of that is because like when you have had as many miscarriages and infertility stuff as me, it feels like this kid is such a goddamn miracle. I
Yeah.
mean, the
I mean,
fertility
she
doc,
is.
the fertility doctor was like, I have no idea how you had one child.
Yeah. I mean, she like is
Your
legitimately a
eggs are from the
miracle.
Stone Age, basically. Your
From
eggs
the
are
Stone
he's like,
Age.
your eggs are incredibly low quality. I was like, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks. So sweet.
But and so I like go, but like there's days where like it's really hard and she is struggling, which makes me struggle. But it's like I almost like can't let myself like feel frustrated,
Yeah.
which is like not good, right? Like she needs to see her mom get frustrated. She needs to see the situation. I like feel so protective of her. And so and that's the shit that can end up hurting you, right? Like because she's
The
not going
guilt.
to live in a bubble. She
Right.
needs to have reality.
Yes. Yeah. And this is reality, right? Like this is real. And I'm glad that we just like fully brought ourselves to the podcast today. And, I think we do in a lot of ways, but this was just like a real, as raw as we could be just in this moment. Do you want to do a Dear Em and Jen?
I do. Yeah, but can then like if we're talking about can we start looking like shit on this podcast?
Yeah, 100%. I
Like
told
why
you we
like
could
I
start.
know, but like I like hate that I like blow my hair. Like I mean
You
this
don't
is my
have,
hair, but I mean like I'm like
looks
what am I
beautiful.
doing? Like why don't I just show up who I am?
Yeah.
It's
Let's
because
just,
it feels like I have to also still have the professional persona and like I
yeah.
wouldn't just show up like shit to a client. It's like respect
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So like it's still we struggle. We struggle with this.
We
Okay.
struggle. It's a
We're still
battle.
gonna do well, we'll have one normal thing about this show, which is Dear Em and Jen. Let's do it.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
Dear Emma Jen, first off, y'all have been my therapist outside of therapy and my wallet and me. Thank you both. That's so nice. I came from an enmeshed family who really struggles with boundaries. This is like perfect for this, for this episode. My parents rely on me for emotional support and have had a hard time accepting that I'm a grown ass woman who's married with her own life. I've done a lot of work on myself with boundaries and have recently found out about radical acceptance. I've been trying to radically accept that this is the way my family is, but my husband really struggles and says that they take advantage of me. This causes a lot of fights and arguments about my involvement with my family. How do I balance the line of radical acceptance and boundaries
Mm,
when it comes family or marital relationships?
when it comes to family and marital
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
relationships. Um, so one, I would be interested in what your partner is wanting this to look like.
Yeah.
Right? Like maybe you may have done such a tremendous job of boundaries that you're looking at this like, wow, like this is so much better than it's ever been. And your partner's still like, this is not cool. And so I think one is like, what is their expectation and their vision for how this is? And then how would that align for yours? If they came from a very diffused bound, like, or not, sorry, not diffused, but like very like sort of separate family, where maybe there's more emotional cutoff, there's not a ton of closeness, they might be discomfort with anything. So one, I'd be really interested to know. You are doing such a good job of radically accepting. And the thing is that people can only take advantage of you if you let them.
Yeah. I would also be curious as to like what the understanding of radical acceptance is, like, because both things, both radical acceptance and boundaries can exist and should exist um within the scope of your family, where you can radically accept, oh, this is how my family is. I know that about them. I'm not going to change that about them. I can also set the boundaries that I need to set for myself and my relationship in order to have a healthier relationship with them.
Mhm.
When we talk about radical acceptance, it doesn't take away our ability to set our boundaries, right? Where we can say, I understand this about them. I'm not going to change them. Boundaries aren't for other people, they're for us. They don't change other people,
Yeah.
they help take care of us and ourselves and our relationship. And so that's what I would say is like both things can exist. You can accept that your family is like this and they're probably not going to change. They maybe won't set those boundaries. And at the same time, you get to also set the boundaries that you need to set for yourself and for your relationship. So that's what I would say is like, how does that piece play out? Because it sounds like the radical acceptance is very much there, but I'm wondering if it feels like one can exist and the other one can't exist. Like, can both things exist for you?
But
Thanks for listening today. We were real. This is
we hope you
us.
come back next week.
Didn't talk about a pickle. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Shrink Chicks.
We'll see you back here next week for another session.
In the meantime, if you want a question answered or a topic discussed, follow us on Instagram at ShrinkChicks. And if you're looking to get connected with a therapist like us to start or continue your therapeutic journey, visit thetherapygroup.com. Just fill out a contact form on our website, and we will personally match you with one of our amazing therapists. And for all of our therapists and group practice owners out there, we also offer group practice consulting.
And if you're looking to support yourself further and support our show, check out our amazing merch options at shrinkchicks.com/merch and our Know Yourself, Grow Yourself journal on Amazon. Also, if you'd be so kind, we'd love a rating review and for you to share with a friend or an enemy or a mother in law, honestly, whoever needs it, so that we can keep reaching more people on our mission to bring mental health topics to your ears every week.
Thanks for being here with us. And don't forget to grow yourself. You got to know yourself.